Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, the opening of Nueva Luz Open to Interpretation exhibit will be on display until September 4th. We speak with a featured artist and the managing director of En Foco to learn more about the art that is on display. Then we are joined on Skype by the Deputy Editor of Special Projects at Consumer Reports to learn how advanced technology can help us save big in supermarkets. After that, we take a look back at an interview with two representatives from the Bpys Room to see how they aim to provide support and guidance to Black and brown boys. And finally, the Executive Director from NYPACE joins us in studio to discuss how they are supporting entrepreneurs. So stay tuned to all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, August 13th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Last year, En Foco introduced the Nueva Luz Study Center Commissioning Fund, commissioning 3 artists to create new work and explore historical context from a contemporary point of view. Managing Director Oscar Rivera and featured artist Shiloah Coley joins me to discuss this initiative. I want to thank you both so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Now, I want to learn a little bit more about En Foco before we go more into the exhibit. Can you just tell us a little background about the organization and its overall mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So En Foco was started in 1974 by a group of Puerto Rican photographers who were really pushing back against the limits to resources and exhibition opportunities that they had. And we've been doing the same thing since then, really focusing on promoting the efforts of artists of color.
Now, how did the Nueva Luz Study Center Commissioning Fund come into existence, and what was its primary goal for 2024?
Yeah, so the Commissioning Fund was an initiative that we launched alongside the launch of our Nueva Luz Study Center, which is a digital online resource where people can access our archives, the past issues of Nueva Luz, and a bunch of other archival materials for free on our website. Can you remind me what the second half of the question is?
Yeah, and what was its primary goal for 2024?
Yeah. And for 2024, it was to activate our archives, let people know that there is a large community record of all of the artists that we've worked with that's accessible and that can be used as a catalyst for work that they want to do.
Now, I'm curious to know a little bit more about the title because I think whenever we talk about art, the title definitely means something, and it's Nueva Luz. Can you tell me, what does that translate to and what does it mean?
Yeah, so Nueva Luz means new light. It's kind of a pun because we're a photography organization. It's the name of our magazine that's been in production since 1985. And the show title, Open to Interpretation, is because the artists were tasked with responding to either an artwork, a theme, or an essay within the Nueva Luz archive to build their commission projects around. So reopening that conversation.
Now, Shiloah, can you tell me a little bit more about your role in this?
Yeah, I think, glory to God, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and it's really been such a blessing to be able to work with En Foco. And as one of the artists that was selected, it was the opportunity to really look at the archive and just build off of it as an artist and kind of use that as inspiration. So I was specifically looking at the work of Black women photographers in the 70s and 80s, and then I used that as an opportunity to also interview Black women who are lifelong New Yorkers and kind of have them look at the work from the archive that was specifically coming from photographers in the 70s and 80s and kind of connect their own lives and their personal stories to the work that was in the archive. So connecting the archive to present day.
That's amazing. And I want to talk about, there were two other artists that are also a part of this. Can you tell me a little bit more just, behind what was the criteria or what, was expected of these artists and why they were chosen?
So there was another artist named Lisa Dubois and then a collaborative pair, Regine Lays and Thiago Stremixiani. Lisa's project focused on documenting the waves of gentrification that Harlem has experienced, focusing specifically on Sugar Hill where she grew up and then coming outward. And Regine and Thiago focused on the sort of structure of our study center and some of the limitations that are currently existing, and they built this elaborate sort of installation, including mixed media drawings and reference materials, focusing in on the key words that they found through their research through the study center.
And with that being said, Shiloah, I want to talk a little bit more about your process. How did you use identity? Because we are talking about people who have very unique experiences, whether that be in New York or just in this country in general. How did you use that to kind of help you with your work?
Yeah, I think that knowing En Foco's mission and background, and then also just knowing they have such a rich archive of so many different artists and photographers of color that have come through New York and are also from across the country and from different places. I was really interested in honing in on, I think as a Black woman, I think about how Black women are like photographed, how they're captured in images, what it means to be the subject, and then also to subvert that and what it means to be the photographer, right? And knowing that these Black women photographers were out there capturing really everyday life, but then also like the experiences of Black women, Black communities in New York and outside of New York, I just thought it was a really beautiful opportunity to be able to look at the past and connect it to the present by speaking to women who are of different generations. I spoke to women who were in their 60s and also a woman who was in her 20s. And to hear how in present day they're able to connect their lives to what they see in the archive was just a really beautiful through line.
And kind of talking about that entire timeline, your work is digital. With that being said, there's so much going on in the digital space. How have you seen photography, especially, with Black women being the subject, evolved, over time?
Yeah, I think as someone who is not a photographer, but is like a large admirer of photographers, I think it's just beautiful to see people have control over their own narratives. You know what I mean? To see that relationship change from being the subject of work to like having control with the lens and the camera in your hand. It just changes the entire relationship and dynamic, and it gives people the power to be able to tell their own stories or to be able to share the stories of their communities. And I think that's exactly what En Foco does with their archive by opening it up to people, is really like, these are the stories and the narratives that exist here, and like connecting it to present day and showing that there's still relevance, because so much of what we experience across time is cyclical, and and it's important for us to learn from each other and with each other.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, in what ways did the Nueva Luz Study Center Commissioning Fund aim to use historical themes as a catalyst for contemporary exploration?
Yeah, so just to kind of build off what Shiloah said, we're still facing a lot of the same battles. Artists are still struggling for equal rights and representation and all of the icky stuff that we protest all the time about. And the study center is En Foco's way of providing access to history. There's no financial bound, you're not bound by institutions. Anyone on the internet can access 50 years of our history and learn what's happened before and how to better prepare and shape what comes next. And that's been our driving mission, making sure that everyone has access to our archive so that we can share that information, because what's the use of preserving all of that information and documenting everything that's come before if only certain people have access to it and can learn from it?
And, I'm kind of thinking about this now, and I'd love to hear both of your ideas on this. But when we think of art, we don't often always think about history and how we're capturing history. Can you tell me just a little bit through your own experience, what you've noticed in that relationship between history and art or photographs and, what we consider archival? Kind of seeing this overlap is kind of interesting. So I'm curious to know, how did you both approach that?
Yeah. So photography is it's a science, but it's also a record of truth and time. And so when you are documenting things, there's this sort of quality of time passing, but timelessness that's built into the process. And so every time we put up an art show or there's an issue of the magazine, that contemporary moment is immortalized. And so you can always go back and think about what was happening in that time period, how the artists were moving, and what were the challenges they were facing. And I think that that's one of the more humanizing aspects of photography, is that that there's a person both in front of and behind the camera at all times, and their touch, their imprint is always going to be there, and you can learn from that.
Amazing. And I'm curious to hear, how you feel about that as well.
Yeah, to build off of that, I think you said that so well, Oscar, and I think that I'm often thinking about how art can kind of like open a door for us to see someone else's perspective, or even to empathize with someone and connect with people in a way that we might not anticipate. And I think that the relationship that like art and history have to each other, it's so essential because I think art can help us better understand history. It humanizes it, right? It's one thing to like read it in a textbook, and we know that even when we're reading a textbook that there's certain narratives that we get, there's certain narratives that we hear, and art is so much more personal in a way. And I think that really allows us to be able to connect the past with the present.
That's amazing, and a lot of our textbooks have photographs,
This is
you
true.
know, and
This
they
is
were,
also true.
you know, they were from people who probably view themselves. I mean, yeah, we say journalists sometimes, but there are people who probably view themselves as artists as well. So I just kind of love highlighting that connection, and I think it's something that we should definitely look further into, you know, as this kind of art form evolves.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Everyone has a camera in their pocket. Everyone
Right.
is making more photographs than ever, and so we're seeing more perspective of history than we have ever been able to comprehend before. And I think it's a really beautiful moment.
Thank you so much. I really love that, you know, just talking about that. I think that's pretty amazing. Now, you know, how was your experience being a part of this exhibit? And, you know, how do you feel it's helped you grow as an artist?
Yeah, it's been so incredible in the sense that as an artist too, I always try to have archives and community at the center of my work. And that's not always an opportunity that you get, which is why it's been such a blessing to be able to work with En Foco, is really because they have this rich archive and they're like, as an artist, like come to it, bring your ideas, your thoughts, and what you want to do with it. I think I've had opportunities in the past to work with other institutions and it's been incredible, but it's kind of rare to have the opportunity to bring just like your own background and thoughts to a project. So it's been incredible in that sense, and it was so exciting to be able to interview 3 women of 3 different backgrounds that live in 3 different places in New York and have really been lifelong New Yorkers, and just hear the way that they were connecting to the work that was in the archive, what it meant to them. It was so incredible to see something. The way we started the interviews was there were 15 images that they got to look at and really select the ones that spoke to them or stirred an emotion or stirred a feeling. And it was so cool to even just see the overlap in the images that were selected, because I asked each person to select 3, and there was clear overlap in the ones that they were interested in talking about, and the way that they naturally started talking about their lives and their own lived experiences. And it's so beautiful to see like these 3 women who have never met each other have all these ties and connections in ways that you might not ever anticipate, or they might not ever know if they cross each other on the street, right? And I think that's what's so powerful to me about art, about stories, about also like our humanity and our human connection, is how much more sometimes we have in common with the person next to us than we might even know. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to have been able to dig into the archive in that way.
That's amazing. Now, I want people to kind of, you know, experience this a little bit more. So where can people go to learn more about Nueve Luz?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website, enfoco.org. All of our exhibitions are replicated virtually there. You can purchase our magazine, and all 77 issues are available for free in PDF format.
All right, well, once again, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us. And I feel like even for me, I got to kind of think about art in a different way that I haven't thought of before, because I do kind of separate the two, but they are so closely connected when we talk about history and perspectives, you know, and art. So once again, I want to thank you both so much for joining us and having this discussion.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Nueve Luz Open to Interpretation exhibit will be on display from now until September 4th at Wallworks, New York, located at 15 Canal Place in the Bronx. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Hey creative family, my name is Timothy Coleman and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx, because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. The addition of AI technology, palm readers, and more advanced tech continue to transform the grocery shopping experience. Consumer Reports investigated how consumers can utilize this technology to improve their shopping experience and save money at both local and large chain supermarkets. Ryan Vines, Deputy Editor for Special Projects at Consumer Reports, joins me to discuss. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I talked about it briefly, but can you tell us a little bit more or, expand on how the landscape of grocery shopping has changed over time?
Well, as you just said, technology has invaded every space of our lives, right? And that includes the grocery store now. You briefly hinted at this new technology from the folks at Amazon that actually maps your palm. They do a scan of your palm that you can do right from your mobile phone. And then you link that scan to a payment method. So you can like say, okay, this palm belongs to this credit card. So now I'm linked forever. And all I need to do to go and buy something is hold my hand over this little scanner and boom, the money comes out. So that's just one of the ways that they're trying to speed us through the grocery store because most of the time, the worst part about grocery shopping is that long line. So that's the sort of Amazon solution. But that's just one of many things, including new smart carts that you connect your credit card and you walk around and you put stuff in, and there's all these readers around that are keeping a running total and show you exactly what you're buying. And they even have a scale inside. So you can buy bulk things or fruit and weigh them and keep it moving. And you never have to talk or interact with anyone. When you're done, you just swipe that card and you can walk right out the door.
Now, I know for some of them they're a little bit more extreme, or just because we're not used to seeing things like having a
Yeah.
palm reader, pay for all of our items. But, why might these things, or how can these things be a little bit more beneficial? I know that sometimes people are a little bit apprehensive to change or things that are new. But, just from your research, how have you found this actually be beneficial to shoppers?
Well, one of the things is, like I said just a second ago, about cutting that lag time, because that's a reason why a lot of people don't like to go to the store because you have to do it and then you're waiting in line. And sometimes those lines are long. Like I've walked into the grocery store and left because I see long lines, unless I really need something. So it really is about attracting more people for an in store experience because grocery stores know that once they get you in there, they start playing all those mind tricks on you when you go for one thing and you leave with two bags worth of stuff. And with the price of groceries right now, it really is about moving people through and giving them the most information that they can so they can make an informed decision. And what we hope is that people actually use some of this technology, including the store loyalty clubs, to save some money while they're in the grocery store.
Now, with that being said, how could the growing integration of technology in everyday shopping affect consumer behavior and expectations?
Well, we expect more from the grocery stores now because other parts of our lives have been made so much easier, is the idea, by adding technology to them. So it really is bringing that same sort of fast motion, people centered, just on yourself way of moving through. Like we saw self checkout become a thing. And in the beginning, it's like, what? Like, I don't work here. But now you actually want to go to self checkout and get out quicker instead of waiting in line. And this is almost like the evolution of self checkout. Another thing where technology is coming in, I don't know how many of us shop at those big box stores around New York, but if you get up to the Costco or a BJ's and you're like waiting in line, and then you have to wait in that line for that person with the highlighter so they can look at your cart and see that you have what you paid for. And there's some new AI technology that's being piloted at some big box stores where you can skip that line and just walk right through a sensor, not unlike the ones at the airport. And they can scan everything with AI so you don't even have to wait in that line for the person to check off your receipt. So
Wow.
it's all about convenience and getting you in and out to stop that lag at the checkout, which is, aside from the high cost of groceries, the number one reason why people find it annoying to go shopping.
That's amazing. It's just so like to hear all of these things. I think in some neighborhoods
Right?
we still do things kind of the old school way, in some neighborhoods. But I have gone to some of the big chain supermarkets where I have seen these things, or I've even seen. I would like to call them like little robots checking for inventory. And so it's just really interesting to see how technology is just changing that aspect of our lives. But I also want to talk about things that I guess now would be considered old technology, and that's like the use of apps. How could apps be used to kind of help our experience? I know we're all very familiar with it, but how can we use it in a new way to kind of have a better grocery shopping experience?
Well, apps are the number one gateway to actually saving money at the grocery store. We know food prices are high, and it's the number one indicator of inflation for Americans, according to a lot of surveys, that we feel the price of things rise the most at the grocery store because we know how much something costs, and then we go in and it's more and more every week. So we know what food prices are, but the apps that you can download to your phone are some of the easiest ways to get savings. We have a Stop and Shop in my neighborhood, and you go there. And once I experienced the time where there were three different prices for one item, it was ice cream. So you could go in and buy one of them for $6.99 for the pint. But if you had the savings club, the loyalty program, you could get them two for seven. But if you had the loyalty club and downloaded the app where you could get a digital coupon, you could get them at two for six. So it's one item, three different prices, and it all depends on how deep you want to go with your relationship with the store. If you just walked in off the street, it's one price. If you join their savings club, it's another. If you join the savings club and took the step further to download that app onto your phone, you got another dollar off. So that is really, in a nutshell, what these programs can do. How deep do you want to get for the discounts that are the biggest?
Now, with that being said, I kind of want to move over and talk about different services like Instacart
Mhm.
or Fresh Direct. How have they impacted how we shop for groceries? And are these services actually helpful? Do they help us save, or are we spending more money? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, one of those things about those services is they were clutch during the pandemic when a lot of us were like keeping it close and not going out. So shout out to all those essential workers who were essential then, are still essential now, who were bringing us the groceries and making sure that we made it through. But one of the things that they did was really wake up grocery stores to say, you know what, we like having people in our stores because they actually do purchase more things when they come in. So those apps can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes you can stick to your budget by only ordering what you need as seen on one of the grocery getting apps. So you're not tempted by something that looks like a good deal, or you went in and you were hungry and you came out buying all these extra things that you really didn't need. So that is one of the advantages of shopping on one of the Instacarts or the other apps that just bring the groceries to you. But sometimes those apps, you have to be careful because if you are a person who shops with coupons, and there's no reason we shouldn't all be using coupons a little more, some of them have couponing policies that just don't honor them. So you could be cheating yourself out of savings by taking advantage of the convenience of the sort of click and go model with your groceries. So be careful, watch out. It could be convenient, but make sure that that convenience isn't costly.
Now, speaking of costs, a lot of people turn to store brands at times, but there's this perceived idea that they're not as good as some of the big name brands that we're used to seeing growing up. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you found out about store brands, and what strategies are supermarkets using to improve the perception of store brands?
Well, this is another reason why the stores want you to come in, because store brands that are, now we call them private label. When I was a kid, we just said generic, and it came in a like black and white box. It's like, not that, get the cornflakes, don't buy the generic one. But those store labels, which are private label brands right now, you can save 15 to 25% off of food if you buy the store brand, which is that private label. And if you're buying like personal care things like your body wash, toothpaste, mouthwash, antiperspirant, all of those things can save you 50%, literally half as much if you buy the private label brands. And stores want you in so you can discover those brands. And many of them offer money back guarantees if you buy it and don't like it. So it would be worth a try if you can save 15 to 25% and up to 50% on personal care things just by trying that private label. Some of those products are actually made in the same factory by the same people who make those national name brands that we grew up with watching all their commercials. So it's worth giving it a try, especially when they're willing to say, we'll give you your money back if you don't like it.
I was just going to say, I think that's like one of the, I guess it's not a conspiracy, but it was a big conspiracy at some point that people were like, they're actually the same thing. They're made from the same factory. So it's kind of nice to hear you say that.
It's absolutely true. There's like the people at Post Cereal, like your Honey Bunches of Oats and all that. Same thing as some of the store brands. Over at Costco, they're Kirkland. They have some Starbucks products and a bunch of other things that literally are coming from the same place at a much lower price just because they don't have the national name brand on them. It's
Wow.
true,
Well, with
right?
that,
Save your money.
I want to say, I've also noticed that people from younger generations tend to kind of ignore this, these ideas to save big. I'll sometimes have to tell my friends, like, hey, you could do this or don't buy this now, wait. What advice would you give to some young adults who are kind of just starting this journey with buying groceries and
Sure.
kind of looking for ways to save?
What I would tell anyone who's looking to save, especially young people, is to get into the rhythm of looking for sales and trying to save. Don't buy something just because the commercial told you that it's the latest, greatest, and it costs more than something that could be made in the same place or is just as good. So, really, experiment, but don't get caught up in the okey doke with looking at all of the shiny, bright things. One other thing is groceries are one of the only places where you have more control. Gas costs what it costs, the rent costs what it costs, insurance, car, all of these things cost as much as they cost, and there's not a lot of wiggle room. But if you go to the grocery store, there are options. And that money that you save at the grocery store can be saved for real and put to work for you, or you can use it in other areas of your life because the light bill is not going down.
Right,
But
exactly.
groceries go on sale. So groceries are the only place that you really have control over how your money goes out. So think about that and look at other parts of your life where you could use that assist that you get from buying the private label versus the one with the commercial.
Right. Well, with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us and educating our community on how they can save at the grocery store.
Anytime. Thanksgiving.
To read Brian's article titled Save Big at the Supermarket, please go to the Consumer Reports website, which is on your screen below. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this. Welcome back. Let's take a look at this segment with the Bpys Room, an initiative designed to provide support and guidance to Black and brown boys as they navigate the challenges of elementary school, middle school, and beyond.
Yes.
Now, what is the Bpys Room and how did it come to be?
Great question. So the Bpys Room is a mission-based affinity program for Black and brown boys in grades 3 through 8. We mentor, support, and empower them during a critical time in their development. And our goal is to really just enhance them socially and academically and to provide a foundation for critical thinking.
Now, why did you want to create an organization like this, especially focusing on young boys?
Great question. I have 2 boys, and so, that they are my focus. And so when I created the program in 2019, I did a pilot first to just see if there was an interest. And I also noticed that there wasn't much representation in independent and private schools. And so my boys attend an independent school, and I wanted to create a community for them. And then just looking back, my past, I also attended a PWI. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. And so my siblings and we attended. And I just remember that feeling of not seeing folks that look like me in my classroom. So I really wanted to make sure that I did this for my children.
Now, you mentioned that it started in 2019, and as we all know, so much happened since 2019. How has this idea and just the overall program evolved since then?
Yeah, we started in New York City, and then a few years later we expanded to Massachusetts, and then shortly after that we expanded to Connecticut, and now we are in North Carolina. So initially I was actually just running the programming myself, but then, of course I can't be in all of the places all of the time, so then I needed to onboard staff in those states as well.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about, you talked about representation, which I'd like to hear from both of you. Of course that is very important, but the focus on young Black and brown boys from 3rd to 8th grade. Can you talk a little bit more about, the importance of the fact that it's for Black and brown boys and, in that age group?
Sure. Well, historically, I believe that Black women have understood the importance of cohesion, and you see it through so many communities, and I think Black and brown men need that kind of space to unify and form a brotherhood, So I think it's important to create that community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we provide a safe space for our boys. They enjoy it tremendously. I can share with you that, we have a few different offerings. We have the school base, we have the community base, and we also have the book club. And so, with the school-based programming, those are young boys who actually attend that school. And so we meet with them on their campus after school. And then the community-based programming is when we're working with several different schools and we're meeting with the kids on the weekend. And then, finally, we also have the online Lit Squad, which Nia actually runs that, and she can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so I want to learn a little bit more about, just some of the services. Can you talk about the one that you kind of run? It sounds really cool. I like the name of it. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
We love book club. Book club we run it once a week, every Sunday, and for an hour, and it's on Zoom. So we have different cohorts in North Carolina, in New York, in the Bronx. In the Lit Club, we look at a different book probably every 2-3 months, and we look at themes that inspire the boys to dream, We don't only look at themes of oppression and racism, which we do cover, but we look at what it means to be a child, How can I represent, how can I show up in the world as my biggest self, as my light self,
That's amazing, and I like that because I think a lot of Black and brown children, of course it's good to know about your history and what people go through, but just to be a kid and just to have fun is also revolutionary and means a lot. So I love that. And also I love that the name kind of puts a positive spin, because whenever we hear the term like the Bpys Room or the Boys Club, it's usually a negative connotation, and I love that the name is kind of putting a positive spin on that. So I think that's also really amazing. Now I want to highlight how a lot of the services focuses on building community building or building a brotherhood. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of that, especially for a lot of Black and brown men and boys?
Yeah, so we focus on 5 core values, and our core values are confidence, belonging, leadership, awareness, and respect. And we meet with the kids throughout the entire school year, and so that's our focus, and we're always talking to them about those 5 core values. You know, we meet in person, and as Nia mentioned, we meet online, but you know, these kids, that's what they really need when they are in spaces and there's not much representation. So as Nia said, we like to build them up, right? We want to make sure that they know that they are the light of the world, so they know how to show up.
Now, I want to talk about how the Boys Room emphasizes celebrating differences. How do you create an environment that encourages boys to express themselves without judgment and to celebrate their individuality?
Well, it's a safe space, right? And so, you know, when they enter, whether it's online or in person, they see folks that look like them, and immediately you feel comfortable, right? Like, you do not feel like you need to put on any airs at all, and you can really show up in your, you know, your true authentic self. So there are boys who have, you know, Caribbean background, they have, you know, West African background, and they're just really proud of that. And so we make sure that they share that with us, and you know, by doing that, that's public speaking, right? So the way that they're showing up in group is the same way they'll show up in the classroom.
And in the book club, no question is a bad question. And me and my co-facilitator, we really emphasize the fact that they're free to speak, and anytime someone laughs or giggles at a comment, we make sure we call that out, that behavior out, and say that that is not in line with who we are. We're a brotherhood, and we support each other's ideas.
Now, I want to expand on, you mentioned that sometimes the boys will have different backgrounds and come from different places, while also sharing something that, you know, I guess binds them together or kind of like builds community with them. Can you talk about, you know, how you see just this idea expanding even outside of New York, but still kind of holding on to that idea of togetherness and building community?
Great question. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things on the horizon right now, but it's really important. And I think what really ties the programming together is the Lit Squad, right? Because although they are in different cities and in different states, essentially doing the same type of work, having them be together online with the book club, that's an opportunity for all of the boys in all of the cohorts in all of the states to get together and build community online as well as in person too.
Now, what are some of the challenges that are facing young Black and brown boys, you know, in this age group? You know, what are some things that are unique to them that we may need this type of programming for this community?
Well, boys, when there's no representation, right, they oftentimes might feel a little self-conscious, right? You know, when there's no one in the room that looks like them, they might experience racism or microaggressions and things like that, right? So having a program like this, you know, where we emphasize how wonderful they are and really build them up, you know, I think that having this type of program, that will transfer into the classroom and eventually into the boardroom, because we're building them up. We're making sure that they know that they're amazing people. And so I think having them, you know, creating this foundation in grades 3 through 8, that's where you need to start building, not later in life.
Now, can you talk about the mentorship and what mentoring looks like at the Boys Room?
Well, mentorship looks different in the different spaces. So online, we have to be really cognizant of the fact that students are in their own homes, and so we have to really keep the eye contact. So mentorship online looks like checking in. Hey, how are you today? What's going on? What do you need today? In person, mentorship is kind of, after a long day of school, you know, it's kind of hard to keep boys' attention. So mentorship is, okay, where are we at energy level? So with my boys, I go like, okay, how are we feeling from here to here? I'm feeling at 5, okay, I need to bring all my energy and kind of transmit it to you. You know, we kind of
do it that way, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, what are your aspirations for the expansion and the evolution of the Boys Room? And are there any new initiatives or areas of focus on the horizon?
You know, I always tell people this program has to outlive me. You know, I'm very intentional about making sure that it grows and expands. You know, right now we are in 4 states in 4 years, which is an amazing growth. And there's more happening. And I just really want to see this program everywhere, honestly. Everywhere where there are Black and brown boys who might feel like, there's no one that looks like them, and they might feel like, they're really not bringing their true authentic self into, whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's, sports or the classroom or wherever. I really want them to feel confident and be strong in themselves.
Now, does the organization have any collaborations with schools and communities for programming events or workshops?
Yeah, we've done quite a few in the past, and we have some things coming up. In the past, we have worked with food pantries in churches, where the boys would package, food and deliver it to homes, or, when we're working with thrift stores, the things that no one, that they package together and they bring to other shelters. I've done workshops this past few months. Actually, I was at the National Association of Independent Schools People of Color Conference. I was invited to do a workshop there, and that was in Missouri. I have a couple other workshops on the horizon coming up, just really putting the program out there. And everyone in the U.S. is attending these conferences, so it's really putting the program on the map in that way.
Now, I think this is an amazing program, and I think that the organization is in a really great spot because, being around for about 5 years or so, it's exciting to see what the future holds for the program, to see how these boys, how they are after they've gone through the program.
Right.
So I'm excited for the growth and the expansion. And I want to thank you both so much for joining us and, sharing a little bit about the organization and the community that you've built.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
To stay in touch with the Bpys Room and to learn more about their amazing programs, please go to their website at www.thebpysroom.org. We'd like to take this time to thank the Bpys Room for informing our viewers on the amazing work the organization is doing. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. %5 of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. %34 of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. The New York Professional Advisors for Community Entrepreneurs, a nonprofit organization dedicated to stimulating job creation and economic opportunity, has been selected to receive PayPal's $20,000 Community Impact Grant. Ibrahima Souare, Executive Director for NYPACE, joins me to discuss this effort. I want to thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Now, can you just tell us a little bit more about your organization, NYPACE, and its overall mission?
Yeah, sure. NYPACE, New York Professional Advisors Community Entrepreneurs, We're a small but growing nonprofit organization based here in New York City. The mission of the organization is to really be able to foster job creation and economic opportunity by focusing on underserved entrepreneurs and underrepresented areas. The way that we do this is that we mobilize highly skilled, competent volunteer professionals that go out to support growth-ready entrepreneurs that we recruit to participate within our programs.
Now, I want to say congratulations because that's an amazing, accomplishment. Can you tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind partnering with PayPal and their community impact grant and how, just receiving this $20,000, just like what that experience was like?
Yeah. Well, first, the way we look at this is an investment within NYPACE, our mission, our vision, and within our program and what we're trying to do to really support growth-ready entrepreneurs that are underserved and underrepresented. PayPal, as we all know, being a fintech company, their mission and what products they bring to the marketplace centrally focuses on supporting small businesses. And there is an alignment with what we're trying to do on that front. So with this investment, we're essentially steering it right within our programmatic areas. We have three main areas. One is within our flagship 8-week program, which is our most highly impactful program. Secondly is a truncated version of that, which we call the Entrepreneurial Day of Service. So we choose sort of half a day. And then we have this comprehensive workshop learning series. So each of these programmatic areas look to be able to provide training, advisement, tools, and resources, and connecting these entrepreneurs to other folks that have the skills.
Now, how will this $20,000 impact the work that you're currently doing? And what does that look like? We hear often that communities or organizations will get grant money, and we just think that the money is just thrown at these organizations. But how does it actually impact the work that you're doing?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for NYPACE, again, the way we look at this is an investment. I recently had taken helm as the ED for the organization, about to be about 2 years into the role. And one of my commitments to the challenge in this leadership is really to diversify what NYPACE is doing and being able to partner with other corporations like a PayPal. So last year was the first time that PayPal had selected NYPACE to participate in a community impact grant. And it was just in alignment on that end. So with this investment, again, we're utilizing it to go directly within our programmatic areas, make some additional enhancements so that we can reach and recruit more entrepreneurs that can be able to be aligned to create jobs and have access to economic opportunity.
Now, throughout my work, this is really interesting to see, but I've noticed that there's just a bigger effort to help smaller businesses, to help entrepreneurs of color or entrepreneurs from underserved backgrounds. Can you just talk a little bit more about the role that these small businesses play in job creation and community finances? Yeah.
As we probably will be aware of, is that small businesses are the economic backbone for us. They represent nearly half of jobs in the country. At NYPACE, we, again, within our mission, focus on really helping these entrepreneurs on that front. Small businesses, knowing that they account for nearly half of all jobs, we believe that sort of a theory of change is that if we can identify growth-ready entrepreneurs that have the wherewithal, that have the proven sort of market, a track record on that end, but they need support to elevate and scale, then we can be able to, position them for greater sort of success and sustainability. So that's what we're focused on that front for us here.
Now, I definitely want to take this moment to highlight the Bronx, of course. Can you talk about, Bronx entrepreneurs, what you've seen in your work, and, why is it particularly important? We know the Bronx is one of the most underserved boroughs, in New York City. So can you talk a little bit more about your work with this borough and, why it's important to kind of promote, small businesses and entrepreneurs here?
Yeah. This has been both a personal and professional passion of mine and a commitment. Over the last 12, 13 years, I've been in this space of community economic development. In fact, I am an alum of Lehman College. I call the Bronx my second home, being the fact that I immigrated from West Africa and Guinea. Knowing that I grew up in the Bronx and can really be able to relate and understand the economic sort of I call it a retardation, the progress of communities of color where I come from, more of a reason why I commit to this work. I think when it comes to the Bronx, namely, and looking at small businesses, NYPACE is actually doing more of a concerted effort to reach more entrepreneurs in the Bronx. Because when we talk about low to moderate income communities, when we talk about under-resourced entrepreneurs, when we talk about those that are being delayed from having access and opportunity, you can find those right here in the Bronx. So with that being said, that's one of the reasons why I'm committed to this work, to be able to help more entrepreneurs, because if you help entrepreneurs, they will be creating more jobs in the community, which is going to the residents and families and creating economic growth and sustainability.
Now, I definitely want to highlight, you mentioned that there were different ways that you kind of approach this. How do you match, your resources with a specific entrepreneur? How do you know what these entrepreneur needs? Because everyone's at a different place in their journey. So how do you approach that?
Oh, beautiful question. I think that's one of the reasons why that attracted me to NYPACE, right? Not only the mission, but the program model, right? The program model is essentially bespoke for each entrepreneur, rather than it being focused on a sort of curriculum base. In prior roles that I've held, we would always plan around developing a curriculum-based program where every entrepreneur, whether you're at early startup, mid sort of level, whether you're in different sort of industries, everyone is learning the same thing. That's generally how it's operated. But here at NYPACE, we ensure that each entrepreneur feels that they are being matched with the right skill set of individuals that have the competency to support that need. So we not only recruit growth-ready entrepreneurs, but we also recruit some of the top professionals from some of the top lending corporations, whether it be on the private equity side, accounting side, management consultant side, private equity. And we bring those individuals that in their day jobs, that's their skills. And then now they're offering skills-based volunteerism and being matched to tackle strategies and operation and price modeling and preparing for pitch to receive debt acquisition or some sort of financing support. So that's sort of what we do in a very unique and intentional way for entrepreneurs.
Now, I understand there's something called the Entrepreneurship Day of Service. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. That's one of our newest programs. The past couple of years, we had initially piloted the program, and the sort of the auspices of that was to, let's start off with knowing that there are certain entrepreneurs and volunteers that won't have the ability to commit to 8 weeks, but they want to offer their skills. They want to support entrepreneurs. And on the other end, the entrepreneurs also want to support, but they're trying to run their business and ensure that their bottom line is sustainable. So with the Entrepreneur Day of Service, what we've done is that we would select an entire half day, connect a cohort of entrepreneurs, sort of a 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 or 3, to tackle a specific area that is sort of short term. Maybe they have some legal questions or issues. We connect them with one of the top legal firms in New York City. If they have questions around, hey, we're trying to hit the ground running and expand in this new market, we try to create that sort of short-term engagement on that front. So that's what the Entrepreneur Day of Service focuses on. And of course, PayPal has been able to assist us on that end with their Skills for Good initiative through their community impact team.
Now, I understand there may be some opportunities for volunteers and recruitment may be coming up soon. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh, yes. So every year through the 8-week program, we have 3 cohorts. One in the spring, the summer, in fact, tomorrow, that would be closing out. And now we get it ready to recruit for our fall. So if there's any entrepreneurs that are out there that are interested, we're getting ready now to recruit for our 8-week program in the fall.
That's amazing. And what are the eligibility requirements?
Yes. So that's another area for NYPACE that we are very clear and intentional about. One, we want to make sure that you're growth ready. And what does that mean? Meaning that you've been in operations for at least a couple of years, right? Meaning that you've been able to get to the marketplace and you're actually selling your product or your services and folks are engaging with you. We typically like to say that the ideal sort of entry level is that you have a gross revenue of at least $75,000 in gross sales and then upwards of $1 million. Most of our business are somewhere between $350,000 to $400,000 and are also creating jobs. In addition to that, we prefer if a firm is, or rather identify as a person of color and or women. Those are two of the fastest growing demographic, and NYPACE is focusing on that end. And then after that, there is a formal application process that folks would have to go through. And happy to share sort of the link to that for that application cycle.
Yes, I was just going to say, where can people go to learn more,
Yeah.
to figure out if this is the right fit for them, and where can they sign up?
Yes. So if you go to www.nypace.org and you hover over to our program section, you'll be able to essentially see all of our upcoming programs, from the workshops to also the 8-week, and you submit an application. We actually did a full sort of rebranding and new website to make it a little bit more easier and user-friendly to navigate on our website. So again, www.nypace.org.
Now, last question, what do you hope to see for the future, regarding small businesses and supporting entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So one of the things that myself, along with my esteemed board of directors and staff team, we have actually put together a strategic growth plan over the next 3 years. And we're sort of coining it as Operation Doing More While Reaching More. And part of that goal is, how do we take the current program that has impact, that has results, and reach more entrepreneurs and be able to recruit more volunteers? How do we take the programmatic aspect that we also have to be able to comprehensively, again, have these great impacts?
With that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining us and kind of sharing a little bit more about your community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hemick on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.